The average golfer will make several critical mistakes during a round of golf, and these mistakes will prevent them from shooting lower than they would like. So right after this, let's talk about some of these common mistakes that you're probably making too, and they're preventing you from either breaking 80, maybe breaking 90, maybe even breaking 100, getting to your scoring milestone. Stay tuned. All right, so probably the most common error that the average golfer will make, and you've heard this one before, and this is overestimating the distance that you hit every club. Many golfers tend to confuse their average or their typical shot with a certain club to the best one that they've ever hit. So an easy tip to get out of this syndrome and be able to get more shots pin high or at least reach the green instead of coming up short, which most golfers do. You know, there's a running joke out there that the safest place that you could stand on a golf course is directly behind the flag, because most everybody always comes up short. So what I would do if I were you is, if I have a distance, let's say I have 153 yards to the flag, what I would do all the time is I would round up to the next 10. So anytime you have like a 152 or a 153, just start thinking of it as 160 instead, and start taking a club for 160. The same thing with, let's say, 185. You would take the club to get 190 comfortably. And hopefully that will give you that extra little bump up to where you're not coming up so short. So here I'm caught between a 7 and an 8 iron. I'm gonna choose to do the smooth 7 because I think I'll be able to hit it without pressing, maybe more accurately. Another common error that the average golfer will make that prevents them from shooting lower scores is knowing their miss, but not just knowing their miss, also respecting it. So if you're facing a difficult hole that has big trouble on the right, like out of bounds, water, or maybe a really thick stand of trees, you can either take the same club, the driver, but you can aim left, even into the left rough, in order to save the penalty stroke or the big number going to the right. Hitting it just into the left rough is probably not going to be the root of a double or a triple bogey, and that's what you're trying to save when trying to break 90 or 80, is just eliminate or reduce those bigger numbers. Alternatively, you could take a smaller club, like I'm dropping down to a hybrid here, to make sure that if I do go a little bit offline to the right, I may not be able to reach the trouble on the right. Let me take a try at that. So there's a good shot right down the middle of the fairway with a club that has much less risk of reaching trouble. Now here's a tip that most average golfers have not ever considered, and that is to play for bogey on some holes. Just try to play. If you could mark off, let's say take a scorecard of your course and put a dot by the number 1 through 6 handicap holes. That would be the 6 most difficult golf holes on your course. You can determine these on your course scorecard by looking at the handicap number of each hole. And what you can do is simply put a dot by handicaps number 1 through 6. Put a dot to remind yourself that you're going to be playing right from the tee, a strategy that hopefully will give you a tap in for bogey, which means you're going to be playing away from the trouble. You can be very conservative, because these are the holes that are going to tend to cost you the 6s, 7s, 8s on your scorecard and really undermine a good round. Now, in lieu of marking off the number 1 through 6 handicap, another thing you could do is simply mark the toughest 6 holes for you. So that could be maybe a real tricky par 3 with water on it that you seem to always find. Well, maybe you can just play that one for bogey. So you'll change your strategy. Maybe you don't play it so aggressively, play it a little bit safer. Maybe take a little extra club, go over the green instead of going short into the water, things like that. Now, another idea that most golfers never consider, because their egos just get the best of them, is taking one really hard shot and splitting it into 2 very easy shots. Now, one example of this is what I call the danger zone for the average golfer. That's about 180 to about 220 yards out. And to break 80 or break 90, you simply don't need to pull this shot off at all. The only way you should attempt to try a shot to the green from 180 to 120 yards is if there's basically nothing scary up by the green. There's no heavy rough, there's no penalties, no lost balls possible. It's just the green sitting in the middle of a big field without a lot of trees or trouble around it. Then you can go ahead and get out that long iron or the hybrid and try to knock it up the full distance. But if there's any trouble at all, just remember this, these are the hardest clubs for the average golfer to hit: the 3-wood, the hybrid, the 5 or the 4 iron. This is where a lot of the root causes of those 6, 7s, and 8s come from. But instead of hitting my hybrid, think how simple it would be, how much danger there is and potential damage to my round, when instead I could just take a 9 iron here and I could just do a half swing chip. No danger hitting a 9 iron straight up the fairway, and that's only going to leave me about 60 to 70 yards left to the green anyway, where I can pitch from 60 or 70 yards and I can attack any flag on the green. Where with the hybrid, even if I did hit a pretty good shot, I might end up short-siding myself in an area that I can't possibly get up and down from. Now, this strategy can be adapted into an entire hole strategy. So for example, if you're playing a super hard par 4, why not just right from the tee, play it as a short, easy par 5. Take a smaller club off the tee and just dink the ball up to the fairway and up to the green with 3 hits instead of trying to reach it in 2. See if you can get a tap in for a 5 and avoid the bomb on that hole, the 6, 7, 8, or even 9 that you might make by taking penalty shots or out of play. So there's nothing saying that you have to try to hit the ball on the green in regulation. In fact, most golfers who are shooting around 90 tend to only do that 2 or 3 times around, maybe 4 on a good day. So rather than trying to hit it on the green on these tougher shots, you might just play a little bit safer up to the green. All right, one last idea for those of you who are kind of struggling to get your scores down under 90, and that is taking a look at your average putts per round. You really want to do a good job keeping track. Write down every hole, how many putts you take, and add it up, or use one of the apps like Arcos or the Grint and have it keep your putting for you, your putting stats. Someone who shoots about a 90, their putting par, or the average amount of putts that golfer takes, is generally around 37 or 38. So you can consider that as your putting par. If you're significantly above that on average, got to do a little bit of work around the green. Now, you're never going to completely eliminate 3-putting, but the idea is to reduce 3-putting and increase 1-putting by chipping and pitching it close, that you can actually break 2 putts per hole or 36 in a round. All right, I'm going to get back to practicing. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Steve. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and support the channel by hitting the like right down here and leaving a comment down below. And as usual, hey, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.